welcome back. Just for all you out of the park nerds that need a little fix while we are on a 5-day real life delay from a sim. Nice little break for everybody, but I thought I'd bring a quick video. I like talking about the Hall of Famers each season. I think it's really fun when you get this far in the future where a lot of guys are the real guys that are in TLGs. Obviously, they're all real, but I mean the guys that are in TLG when we started playing, and now they're retired, which is really cool. So there's a couple big names that joined the class this year. First of all, we got Cano. Cano was a long-time Yankee and played a bunch of good years in Seattle. Finished off his career with the Mets, as we all know. Dude had 326 home runs as a second baseman. Hit for a stellar 300 career average. TLG wasn't kind to him as he fell off immediately and had negative WARs in both seasons and retired. But the guy has a pretty stellar resume. I know he's had some questions about his suspensions in the past, so some of you guys might value some steroid users differently than others. I also noticed on here, I thought Big Sexy was a lot better at the end of his career. I didn't realize how bad. If you look at his FIPS here and his home runs, just got crushed on home runs. Definitely thought he was more of like a. I seem to remember him at the age of like 42 to 44. I know that's crazy old and still just impressive. He's even at the major leagues at that age, but I do seem to remember him being a little bit better at that age. So it's kind of interesting looking at some of these guys. I'm going to start my list by putting Andrew Jones number one because I'm a massive Andrew Jones fan. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he's the best defensive center fielder ever. One of the biggest reasons I'm into baseball was watching him as a kid. He was one of the most electric players in the league. Absolute monster right across the board. Big time home run power, big time arm, big time range. Just was an absolute freak of nature. Didn't do super well into his 30s, but he was just such an elite player for a couple years there in his 20s. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. A couple interesting names here joined the class. Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber had a monster career. He finished with 38 career WAR. He had some arm injuries and pretty much never started more than 23 games in a season after his age 32. So he kind of fell off pretty hard. But those elite years from the age of 28 right through this 31 year were just so elite, that 4-year window. But he was a really late bloomer. So it's really interesting seeing his stats pretty much all condensed into those 4 or 5 years. So it's not quite enough to get him in the Hall of Fame, is what a lot of people would probably say. But I don't know. It's pretty enticing to see how dominant he was for those seasons. Was an absolute monster and won 2 Cy Youngs here, as you can see, in 2014 and 2017. 7.8 WAR and 7.6 WAR in those 2 seasons. So it's pretty remarkable what he did in a 4-year window. One of the best 4-year peaks of all time. So interesting guy there. I'm a huge fan of a couple other guys in this list farther down. I love Justin Verlander, obviously, is a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. The guy has an MVP, 3 Cy Youngs, 9 All-Stars, was Rookie of the Year, hot girlfriend, 75 career WAR, just everything you want in life. The dude was an absolute freak for a long time. So I'd say he probably has to be number one on this list over Jones even. Captain America David Wright was an absolute beast. He was even better than I thought. Looking at stats, I knew he was really good, but forgot how good he was. From pretty much compiled all 50, about 50 of his 56 WAR from the age 22 to 30 here in this window of about 8-9 seasons. He was an absolute freak. 6 WAR, kind of similar stats to Bregman and TLG. Bregman as a third baseman in TLG kind of had a similar start off, absolute monstrous right in his early 20s, 7, 8, 9 WAR seasons right through to his 30s. So it's kind of interesting the similarities between those two. Pretty similar players too, both high contact, big explosive bats, really solid defenders, just really good all around. So David Wright, I think, definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Also, Ryan Zimmerman, this list, shame on you, Josh, my boy, for letting him go playing Oakland at the end of his career. Pretty cool that you brought him back, though. I love it. In real life, he played all seasons in Washington, retired. Probably not quite good enough to be in the Hall of Fame as a first baseman, third baseman combination. 36 career WARs, a really solid player. From the age of 24 here through 28, he was really solid, but just not quite the peak that you need from a Hall of Fame type player. I absolutely love K-Rod. I would love to see K-Rod in the Hall of Fame. As a kid, he was my favorite closer. I was absolutely obsessed with him when I was a child. I thought he was just so cool to see come into the game late, and I just loved everything about that. It made me really respect closers, having him and Mariano Rivera in their primes. when I was young, so it's really cool seeing those two. Scott Rowland is another name I would love to see in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if I mentioned him yet. Scott Rowland was a Philly for a long time, St. Louis for a long time, an absolute amazing defender. Was just so consistent his entire career. Finished with almost 60 WAR. I think he's a shoo-in for the Hall in real life, so he's definitely up there too. Other than that, the other guy that really stood out to me looking at this list was Tim Hudson. Tim Hudson had 58 career WAR, which I was pretty surprised by, which is more than King Felix. Pretty shocking. I think King Felix is a Hall of Famer too. I think Tim Hudson probably deserves to get in there. Pitcher with almost 60 WAR is pretty insane. Joe Mauer's chilling here. I'm a big catcher guy. I was pretty hard to leave him out of the Hall of Fame. Pretty elite athlete. Played catcher, one of the best to ever do it. I think he also did. I'm a big Hall of Fame guy. I think a few more guys should be in the Hall of Fame. I know it's Hall of Very. Some people call that like Hall of Very Good, but I do think anyone that is super good for that long period of time, anyone kind of like over the 45 WAR threshold, definitely I think deserves quite a look at the Hall of Fame. I'm a huge Jimmy Rollin fans too. Obviously that's a little biased because he played for Philly for so long, but I thought he was such an elite shortstop for so long, such a good talent, such a monster bat defense combination. I was a huge Jimmy Rollins fan, so I think he definitely deserves to be in there. Almost missed Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer definitely deserves to be in too. He was a freak. How do I move these guys up? I don't know how to move them up without screwing around the order of the ballot. I'll fix that after this video. Chase Utley was one of the most explosive offensive second basemen of all time. Guy had 50 career WAR, 260 home runs, 150 career stolen bases, over 1,000 RBIs. Hit 275, slugged pretty hard. So I don't know. He's probably a guy that should be up there too. Not many second base over the 50 career WAR threshold. So he's in his fourth year. He only got 14% of the vote last year. So I don't know. Some guys have a lot tougher critiques for the Hall of Fame than I do. I think he deserves to be up there. John Lester is another guy. I think I won't vote him as he's only in his second season, but I think he probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame after maybe another class or two passes. There's just a lot of really good guys in this class here, so I think the guys. I don't know about Cano. We'll have to fit a couple other guys on this list. Maybe remove somebody that's early in their 10-year tenure. See if we can maybe take off. And Evan Longoria snuck on here too. I thought he was a bit better than 36 career WAR. I guess he was just kind of solid, but not didn't have any of those like huge 5+ WAR seasons that I thought he would have had early in his career to get him to a little bit higher career WAR. Still a really solid career out of him, but yeah, not quite as good of a Hall of Fame chance as I thought he had in real life. Guy needs. I know he had a big minus here at the end here, minus 1.2 WAR. I know in real life he was solid last year, so we'll see how he finishes in real life. He can get to that 40 career WAR mark, but yeah, interesting, really interesting class. So I'd be interested in the comments to see what you guys think about the ballots and what order you put them in. I think pretty interesting seeing Verlander and Scherzer here on the same ballot. Pretty big time arms. So really cool class.